Welcome to this explainer. So, have you ever actually stopped to wonder how a relatively tiny European nation just keeps churning out some of the most breathtaking, world-class football talent on the planet? I mean, generation after generation, they just do it. Today, we're going to unpack this fascinating blueprint together. We're basing this entirely on the detailed insights of KNVB Academy coach Albert Stovenberg, a guy with over 16 years of coaching experience in youth football. We're going to see exactly how the Dutch turn raw passion into a highly tuned engine for player development.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at A Nation of Football. Then, we'll break down the KNVB blueprint. After that, we'll explore starting from age 5, dive into the Dutch way, and finally, wrap up with vision on the pitch.
All right, part 1, A Nation of Football. Let's start by looking at the macro scale.
16 million. That is the total population of the Netherlands. Now, to put that into perspective, in the grand scheme of global sports, 16 million is pretty modest, right? When you're going up against absolute giants with tens or even hundreds of millions of citizens, your margin for wasting any potential talent is basically zero. You absolutely need a system that captures everyone.
But check this out. Contrast that overall population with this staggering figure. Over 1 million people in the Netherlands are registered football members. Think about that for a second. That means more than 1 out of every 16 people in the entire country is an active registered member. It completely cements football as the undeniable, undisputed #1 sport there. We aren't just talking about people watching the game on the couch on weekends. An enormous chunk of the population is actively participating in this ecosystem.
And to support all those members, the density of their system is just mind-blowing. The country has 3,000 amateur clubs operating right alongside 38 professional ones. This massive network serves as the training ground for literally 480,000 youth players. I mean, imagine that density. Basically, wherever you happen to live in the Netherlands, there is a football club deeply embedded right in your local community, just ready to take you in.
Which brings us to part 2, the KNVB blueprint, or organizing the passion.
So with all those massive participation numbers, the big question is, how do you actually organize all that passion? Well, the Royal Dutch Football Association, the KNVB, meticulously maps out the nation. They definitely don't leave player development up to chance. They anchor a central national office in Zeist, and then divide the whole country into 6 highly organized district offices: North, East, South I, South 2, West I, and West 2. This geographic net ensures absolutely no region and no player falls through the cracks.
Through this setup, they deploy a very specific, totally streamlined hierarchy of expertise. At the very top, you've got 8 national staff coaches. They pass their knowledge down to 20 district staff coaches, who then work directly with 50 regional coaches. This structure is brilliant because it ensures that highly specialized, elite footballing knowledge cascades down from just a few dozen top experts to influence every single youth coach, official, and volunteer across all 3,000 of those local clubs. It literally creates a unified language of football across the entire nation.
Let's move to part 3, starting from age 5, tracking the player journey. If we track a typical Dutch youth athlete, we see that organized club football begins incredibly early, at just 5 years old. But here's the kicker. They don't just throw 5-year-olds onto a massive pitch. No way. They start them with small 4 versus 4 games in the under 6 to under 9 categories. This is to absolutely maximize each kid's touches on the ball. Then, as they grow into the under 11 and under 13 brackets, they systematically transition to 7 versus 7. Finally, by the time they hit the U15, U17, and U19 levels, they are fully ready to tackle the standard 11 versus 11 format.
Now, this tiered, carefully phased structure guarantees a very specific outcome. By the time these players age up into the U13 through U19 national youth leagues, the elite talent is constantly testing itself against other elite talent. It's actually a core mantra of the KNVB. The best players play with the best against the best. It's the classic iron sharpens iron mentality happening week in and week out.
This brings us right to part 4, the Dutch way, focusing on their core philosophy.
Because, it's not just about the numbers, it's about the deep philosophy driving them. Can you imagine a teenager doing 6 training sessions a week? It's intense. The Dutch system requires unwavering dedication, demanding a perfect balance between individual and team development. For the most talented players, this grueling schedule of about 6 training sessions a week is capped off with 1 or 2 competitive games. And to make sure this high-volume training is actually effective, these young athletes are guided strictly by well-educated, highly experienced football coaches.
But here's a crucial takeaway.
This isn't just some top-down mandate dictated by the big bosses in Zeist. It is a meticulously coordinated partnership. Youth development over there is viewed as a joint responsibility. The KNVB and those 3,000 local clubs share the heavy lifting of nurturing these future stars. They work hand in hand to execute the national vision right down at the grassroots level.
And finally, Part 5, Vision on the Pitch. Let's look at the tactical mechanics.
So, we've looked at the massive national maps and the participation numbers. Now let's funnel all the way down to the micro level, the actual tactical vision on the pitch that defines the famous Dutch style of play. The KNVB bases their vision on fundamental questions about the structure of the game, beautifully contrasting team functions. On one hand, you have attacking tasks, building up the play and scoring, which means players have to absolutely master running into free space. On the other hand, defending tasks, disturbing the opponent's build-up and preventing scoring, require a completely different set of coordinated moves. We're talking squeezing, marking, giving pressure, and providing cover. Every single player has to understand their exact role in both phases.
And connecting these two opposing states is the vital, often game-defining concept of transition. This is the dynamic phase where you are shifting immediately from defending to attacking, or vice versa. Mastering this transition ensures the team stays highly organized, proactive, and intentional, whether they've just won the ball back or just lost it. For the Dutch, this is about mental speed just as much as physical speed.
Ultimately, all those national statistics, the district coaching maps, those carefully stepped timelines we looked at, they all culminate right here on the pitch. The entire multi-tiered system exists for one primary reason: empowering the individual player to execute with tactical precision and supreme technical confidence in the absolute heat of the game.
By treating talent development as a joined responsibility, a highly organized geographic system, and a perfectly phased timeline, rather than just crossing their fingers and relying on luck, the Netherlands has essentially built a true footballing factory. So it really makes you wonder, right? If this level of meticulous alignment works for an entire nation's talent engine, how could you apply a similar blueprint to supercharge your own local organization, team, or community? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it sparked some transformative ideas for you.